everybody, and welcome back to Fralin and Friends Crafts Plus. Tonight we are doing the fifth of a set of panels of Joseph in the land of Egypt. Jacob has given him the coat of many colors. His brothers have taken it away, torn it, put blood on it, and told their father that Joseph is dead, but they'd actually sold him into slavery. While he was a slave, he interpreted the Pharaoh's dream and became a favorite of the Pharaoh and only second to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh gave him all that authority. So now he's married to one of the priest's daughters who was given to him, and he's got the best of clothes, the best of everything. I cannot believe I did that. I put that yellow right down on the canvas instead of on the foil beside it. I managed to get it cleaned up, but I just felt so bad. But now his dream told that they were going to have 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, 7 years of plenty, and 7 years of famine, and that they need to store up for through those years of plenty, so that they'd have enough for when the famine hit. Well, they've gone through their 7 years of plenty, and Joseph has been storing up all of this corn for the Pharaoh to have and to sell. And so this is the first time that he has seen his brothers since they sold him into slavery. These down here at the bottom, these figures, that's his brothers. There's 10 of them, but I only painted in 4 because room. It'd be too crowded. And it also has to do with they've had to be humbled. They still haven't told what they did to Joseph. Joseph is speaking to them in Egyptian so that they don't recognize him. He's aged some, but he still recognized his brothers. He's aged some, but he speaks only in Egyptian, and he has his assistant interpret for him. And so he's kind of sneaky in that way, but he has all his brothers' sacks filled. He asks them some questions, and they kind of answer. Put it that way. They kind of answer. Then he sends them on their way home, and on the way they open their sacks, and each of them, their money is back in their sacks, and they're scared because they think that they're going to get in trouble for not paying. When they start running short on food again, Jacob, now Israel, sends them back to Egypt to buy more grain. And so they go. Well, they go back, but they take the money for the grain that they're going to buy, as well as the money for the grain that they bought before. They don't know that Joseph is playing tricks on them, but they don't know it's Joseph either. They get back this time, and they give him the money for their grain, and they say, "We got home and our money was back in our sacks, and so we want to pay for the what we got before." So all this is transpired, but Joseph is asking more leading questions this time. He is asking them about their father and their families, and if they have another brother, and they answer, truthfully. And he says, "Well, I want you to bring your brother, your younger brother." And they said, "Well, our father doesn't want to let him come." So he said, "Well, bring your father too." And he put he had the money put back in their sacks again. This time he put he put a silver cup in one. And after they left and were on their way home, he sent someone out to check their bags for the money and for the cup. And they said, whoever has the cup has to go and bring his father back with their brother, or has to, the one they find the cup has to come back, and he will be my prisoner until I until the father brings the other brother. So this is what happened. And so one of his brothers ends up being his prisoner for a time. And it isn't until they, when Joseph finally comes and brings Benjamin with him, that Joseph reveals who he is and speaks to them. And they fall down crying. And they're hugging on Joseph and telling how sorry they are, and Joseph and Ben, they're hugging, and because they were, they were pretty close brothers. And Israel, I keep wanting to call him Jacob, but his name has been changed to Israel. Well, now that his father knows that Joseph is alive, he is just, he's so thrilled. And he falls at, he, the scriptures that I read say he falls on Joseph. Well, what he did, he's hugging Joseph. And because it said they cried on each other's, against each other's shoulder or something. Anyway, so they're hugging, they're crying, and there's Joseph is forgiving his brothers. And so they're having quite a nice little family reunion here. He is speaking Hebrew to them now. So I'm going to have to put some music on here because I'm going to run out of things to say. But yeah, that silo is just full of corn. And so the family has come back together. And Joseph's brothers and are going to be bringing their wives and their children. And there's all of Jacob's surviving wives and handmaids and children. Well, I guess the brothers are his children. Well, he's got a sister too, Dinah. So they're all coming. And so next time, with the very last panel, oh, yeah, the little hash marks I put on there, those are Joseph keeping track of the Pharaoh's corn and how much is paid for it. So there's been a little trickery going on here between Joseph and his brothers. And I don't know, being human, we can't really blame Joseph for playing a few tricks on him, although, you know, it would have been nice to let him know who he is. But I think they were kind of blinded anyway, because his features would have been similar enough. And Joseph did recognize them. So I hope you've enjoyed this part of Joseph's story. But the nation of Israel, Israel is their father, and they are all now in Egypt. Okay, now the nation of Israel is in Egypt. There's actually Israel, there's Leah, his wife. Rachel died in birth, giving birth to Ben. Let's see, Leah and the handmaids and all of his children, the 12 brothers, and then the sons, and their list, the names are almost impossible to announce, and it would be boring to you for me to try to go through all of them. But the brothers have all taken their families. They're all in Egypt. The next one is the beginning of their life in Egypt and how that works out. So I will be back. So I'm thankful if you stayed with me, and if you did, at the end here write corn or corny, whichever you choose. I will see you tomorrow. Israel is now in Egypt. And we'll see you mañana. Good night. I love you. Be sure to smile and wave at somebody. Always be kind and respectful. Good night.